What's going on, y'all? It's JD Piquel. Today on the Hard Count, we're going to talk about Gerry Bohanon being named QB1 at Baylor. Welcome in. It's 365 Sports. Like, subscribe. If you help us, we'll help you. College football season, look around the corner. You see that? It's coming right at you. You're going to want to be on board for this. We want you on board for this. It helps us help you keep the party rolling. I think we have about 30% of our viewers are subscribed, Armstrong, something along those lines. So we're trying to build that up. Anyways, to the main point of what this video is all about, Gerry Bohanon has been named the man at Baylor University. QB1 announced via their social media platforms yesterday. He won the race over Jacob Zeno, Blake Shapen. Kyron Jones is on campus. From what I understand, he wasn't really in the race as much. I think they're content to redshirt him, but the future is bright in Waco. Any way you slice it, you have 3 solid quarterbacks, 4 you count Kyron Jones, 5 you want to count Zach Pyron. Like, there is a lot of good quarterback play in Waco and coming to Waco in the very near future. But as it stands right now, Gerry Bohanon is the man. It's his team, and I was actually really excited for this announcement to break. I was really excited when I read the announcement, like everybody else on Twitter. And I think this just makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense from what he's going to do with this offense and the way that he fits perfectly into this scheme. Before we get into that, I want to break down the race just a little bit. This announcement didn't come until after fall camp. I think it was 48 hours after they finished on Friday. That Sunday it was announced. And the fact that it went the duration of fall camp tells me it was a really tight race. You don't let it go the duration of fall camp if you don't have 2 guys, 3 guys in this case, battling out. Now, how close it was, I mean, that's really up for debate. It's probably up for those that are actually behind those closed doors dealing with Baylor football directly. But all that's to say, it was not necessarily a landslide. If it was a landslide, you probably name a starter a lot sooner. But all things considered, all things being equal, Gerry was the guy. And what he brings to the table is a physical specimen playing quarterback. And we saw last year, Baylor had some issues on the offensive line. Now, they went into the transfer portal, got Jacob Gall, got Grant Miller, 2 guys that have played a lot of football and done it at a high level, but you still are not 100% sure what you have on the offensive line for Baylor. And so for that reason, I think Gerry Bohanon gives you a lot of help. I mean, he's able to, with his athleticism, be able to make up for some of those growing pains, if you will. The offensive line is going to, without a doubt, experience as they come into their own and continue to develop under Coach Mateos throughout the rest of the season. Now, I think they'll get there. I think they're going to just get better as they play together, as they play real 11-on-11 action. But for the time being, in the interim, Gerry Bohanon's feet and his physicality, he's like 6'3", 220. Guy's an absolute truck back there. He's not going to be easy to bring down. So when you have that free blitzer, when you have somebody coming off the edge, Gerry Bohanon's got some of that quickness and some of that, honestly, like I said, just that presence. The sheer size of the guy is going to help him be able to make up for some of those plays when they do break down and as they are coming into their own on the offensive line. Jacob Zeno and Blake Shapen, both phenomenal quarterbacks in their own right, like we mentioned. Blake Shapen, the baseball background, he's got a really quick release. Reminds me of Baker Mayfield a little bit with his agility. Jacob Zeno, probably the most true quarterback out of this group. A lot of people thought he was the one to win the job. But with Gerry Bohanon, your playbook opens up quite a bit more than you would have for Zeno and Blake Shapen. Again, going back to what he brings you with his legs. You can now call quarterback power on 3rd and short. You can call quarterback wide zone on 4th and 1 on the goal line. That's just a reality that you now have. It's a luxury you now have. And the reason that's such a luxury is because you get to add an extra blocker. The way that you draw these things up, draw these plays up in the sand, when you have your quarterback running the football, you get to add in your running back as that extra blocker. You want to get real physical, you add in a fullback. A tight end is the extra blocker. Go a little bit heavier. And that extra blocker allows you to have everybody but the safety blocked, meaning that safety comes from, ideally, depth, probably 8 yards, and we'll call it 12. He's really deep. But at the closest, probably 8 yards. If he's any closer, you're throwing it over his head. But bottom line, you have someone who's at depth that you're turning loose and giving Gerry Bohanon a head start to beat to wherever that point is that he needs to gain. And so the fact that you're able to, 1, be physical, and 2, add the extra blocker, and 3, just have a numbers advantage when it comes to gaining those extra yards in the red zone, in the goal line territory, on short yardage and 4th down, that is crucial. And I think just adds a whole edge to this Baylor team as they move forward. The knock on Gerry Bohanon has been, well, he's not as good a thrower. And I don't know if that's really a fair assessment to make. Is that, I mean, he hasn't really started any games for Baylor, and neither have these other guys. So everyone is saying he is the less capable passer based on whatever they're hearing. And I said in a previous video when we first started this series, when I was on the Baylor team for a really brief period of time, he threw the best deep ball of that whole group. And that was a deep ball group with Charlie Brewer back there. Charlie Brewer was a quarterback at that time, and I think Gerry Bohanon threw the best deep ball. Now, that's my opinion. You could fight me on that, but that's where I stand. And I think Gerry Bohanon is going to surprise a lot of people with how effective of a passer he actually is. And so, yeah, that's just where I stand on Gerry Bohanon. But moving forward, this offense isn't going to ask Gerry Bohanon to be Tom Brady. He's not going to have to throw 30, 40 times a game. They're going to run the football with Abram Smith, Treston Ebner, Squirrel Williams if he's healthy. They're going to get downhill with Gerry Bohanon. And then when that safety does creep up past 8 yards, when those linebackers are keying on wide zone and power and they're trying to trigger and guess the play and get a little happy on their keys with their reads, Gerry Bohanon's going to throw a strike across the middle to Christoph Henley, and he's going to throw corner route to Ben Sims, and he's going to go over the top Tyquan Thornton. Like, if you want to try and account for what they're going to bring physically with this group running the football, there are answers. There are counters built into this scheme to allow Gerry Bohanon to make some really easy throws. Like, he's not going to have to fit it in between a safety and a corner right over a linebacker's head. He's going to have some really accessible throws that are not going to be asking too much of him. Gerry Bohanon's a Division I quarterback. Division I athlete, 100%. Georgia wanted him. Bama wanted him to play defense. But he's also a Division I quarterback. So let's not forget that at the end of the day. Put some respect on Gerry Bohanon's name because you're going to be just fine with sticks at quarterback. Okay, so that's all we got here for the hard count. Again, I think Gerry Bohanon is going to be the man. I think you're going to be very happy, Baylor Nation, with what he brings for you behind center. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at JD Paquel. We're going to be keeping it going as we jump into college football season. 5 days a week is the hard count, so go ahead and lock in, and we will see y'all next time.